Hi guys, today let's discuss the very common but important distinction of running on your toes. Is running on your toes that cue a good idea to actually implement? This cue came into being because we were trying to emphasize, like in the 90s and early 2000s, most of us, especially American kids, got this. We were trying to emphasize front side mechanics, to be more in a forward position, especially in acceleration, and to emphasize smaller steps instead of this one really big step at the beginning where we wind up going into a brake position anyway, where we're not actually able to accelerate, and to think, we can change directions more quickly when we're on our toes. That's not actually the case, because if we constantly run on our toes and we stay in an extended position, then we're not able to actually extend any further. And we have a very small platform or space on the toes of our foot to actually develop power. How are we going to generate any sort of power? Especially during acceleration, when we're going to, just by its very nature, spend a lot more time on the ground so that we can get that good push off. We're going to have a longer ground contact time anyway. And that's important. We don't want to take away from that, because again, having just that small piece of your foot on the ground, you're not able to extend much more, and you're not going to be able to really run faster or push away from the ground. You really need your whole foot in acceleration in order to move you forward, in order to generate power and propel yourself forward. This becomes potentially even more of a problem in maximum velocity training, because in acceleration, if you're running on your toes, then you're probably just not going to accelerate very efficiently. You're going to get really tired pretty fast, not get super fast in this acceleration phase in the first 10 meters. That's okay. It's not a huge injury risk. When we get into maximum velocity training, if we're continuing to run on our toes in this position, especially if we are toeing out and reach forward with our foot where our foot is way in front of our hip, because again, we're emphasizing that front side even in maximum velocity by using this cue. As soon as I put my toe down in front of my hip, I'm too far in front of my hip by using my toe to pull the ground underneath me again, or to pull myself over the ground. I'm putting my hamstring in a really, really bad position. It's simply really inefficient for top speed as well, because again, it's such a small piece of my foot. Now I'm putting my hamstring in a really difficult position where it's required to be super resilient and do the work to get me over. Whereas if I'm focused on not just the toe, but the ball of my foot / my midfoot, this whole thing, if I focus on coming down on my midfoot, my foot's barely in front of my hip, I'm going to be able to get through much faster and not just rely completely on my hamstring to get there. There's two ways that we can still emphasize these front side mechanics without the cue run on your toes, because as we established, that's not super efficient. The first one is to start doing things in dorsiflexion. Now, dorsiflexion, for those of you who don't know, is the opposite of plantar flexion, in which our foot is in extended position or flexed downwards. Dorsiflexion is upwards, or you can think pulling your toes to your shin bone or your toes to your knee. So if you're somebody who suffers from having learned the cue early, run on your toes, and you're trying to learn how to run more efficiently, consider doing your sprint drills, like your marches, your skips, your high knees, in dorsiflexion, so that you can relearn how to get your foot in dorsiflexion. If we're thinking about pulling the toes constantly to the shin bone, we're going to put ourselves in a pretty good position to come down on our midfoot here. We're also going to be in a pretty good position to accelerate from here as well. If I'm thinking more of my midfoot, my toes are to my shin bone, and I'm able to push off more aggressively. The second way that we can emphasize these front side mechanics and unlearn this cue is to think about using your arms. The arms cue the front side always. So if you can think about emphasizing your arm swing also in all of your sprint drills, so whether that's, again, marching, skipping, or high knees, using that arm swing is going to drive you forward. It's going to put you in a much better position. It's going to help your posture a lot. It's also going to help you unlearn this cue, which is not super effective. We want to be more effective when we run. We want to be more efficient. We want to get the most out of it. We want to be as fast as possible and still be able to change direction. But that does not happen just on your toes. It doesn't. It's impossible. So good luck unlearning this cue. Good luck improving your sprint form, and good luck avoiding injury and running fast.